Good morning, dear students. We are going to the third video of safety management in construction. In this presentation, we will be discussing the implementation of safety program. Salient features of any safety program would be like this. It tends to discover when, where and why the instance of the accident which is going to occur in the site. So, tends to discover when, where and why, aims to reduce this and the cost associated with the same. That is, we have already discussed there are direct as well as indirect costs which is involved in the occurrence of an accident. So that has to be avoided. And the major assumption that we follow is the most work connected accidents can be prevented. So that is very important. Most work connected accidents will never happen in any point of activities. And it is a continuous process. It's not a do it today and tomorrow you can just forget it out. It's not like that. It is a continuous process. And it reduces the influence of the environment as well as personal factors which is associated to create the accidents. And it provides the safety equipments to the workers as well as it also aims at training the employees or each and every person involved in the work so that accidents can be averted. And it also includes something known as 4 E's. 4 E's are nothing but engineering, education, enlistment and enforcement. Engineering is nothing but in the planning, design and in the operational level, each and every stages we should incorporate the safety terms into it. So that is the beauty of this engineering and that's the duty of it also. And each and every level of employees should be given or train them in terms of safety. Especially each and every duty should have its own do's and don'ts which has to be inculcated or trained to the employees so that accidents can be averted. And there are different types of employees as well as management, and all their attitude towards the safety program has to be taken into account and to be enlisted their concern or attitudes towards the safety program, and that is nothing but your enlistment. The last is nothing but enforcement. The enforcement is nothing but adherence of the safety rules and safety practices to avoid the occurrence of accidents. To implement the safety program, we have around 19 important aspects which need to be considered. So let us see the step-by-step procedure to manage the health and safety management within any organization. Let us see one by one. So these are the 19 programs that we are supposed to do. The first important thing is that health and safety policy has to be formulated. So the owner, consultant and contractor either jointly or separately need to write down what are the safety as well as health policy that they are going to take. And this clearly should mention or convey the management commitment, intent of the organization towards this health and safety monitoring and the arrangements that is made to meet the set objectives of safety as well as health management. And it should also provide a framework and to establish, especially maintaining and periodically reviewing these health and safety targets as well as whether the objectives are met. The policy shall be communicated to all stakeholders, and probably this policy has to be communicated to each and every workers if required in their own local languages also. So it is going into them so that they will also follow the same. The second important point is that the first one was very general. Now towards a project, probably that may have its own uniqueness. So probably we should have something known as project specific health and safety planning, and it has to be done by looking at or reviewing the work. The main construction agency has to do it, and it should be submitted to the owner and client, and on approval that reference document should be proceeding towards implementation as well as controlling as well as monitoring. And this safety plan shall describe how the project specific health and safety objectives are going to be met or targets are going to be achieved, and there should be a clear roadmap for the same, and there should be a coordinated, synergized as well as monitored efforts also should be there to achieve these standards. And it should also explain the means of establishing a positive health and safety culture within the project site, and they also should identify and enumerate the probable risks which is associated in the project specific activities and how to manage it, or what all issues that it is going to arise, especially health and safety issues that it is going to shoot up. We have to identify them, and we should clearly see how it has to be mitigated and proceed without, the work should proceed without interruption, or it should be executed properly as per schedule, for which what all measures you are supposed to take, it is to be clearly monitored. Coming to the third one, it is resources, roles, responsibilities and authority. And the project manager who is involved in it has to define, document and communicate the roles and responsibilities of each and every person, and who is the authority to maintain it, that also need to be defined. And the ultimate responsibility obviously would be vested with the top management, and every line management person who is doing each and every activities or who is responsible to execute the activities has to be given the responsibility, and they are directly responsible for this health and safety of the work which is under their control. And the safety officer should be employed who is responsible to monitor the health and safety department and its function to monitor this health and safety, and they should guide the top management or the person who is responsible for them as well as who is the worker. They also should be given proper guidance regarding the same. Fourth one, the competence and training and awareness. The employees should be competent, they should be trained properly, that is very important, and unless otherwise they are trained and they are educated and they are experienced, probably they will not understand the need of it. And the competency requirement can be implemented from an external source also, and probably they can be deployed to meet this competence requirements. And the training for different category of employees shall be given according to their involvement and need, so that this employees are aware about what they are going to do and how to execute the work safely. And the objectives of health and safety training shall be to equip the employee with necessary knowledge and skill to perform the work which is assigned to him in a safe manner, to foster for continual improvement and to imbibe safety culture within them. Coming to the next important strategy, it is health and safety communication. So the proper procedure to communicate the significant hazard and risk should be there, and it should go into their mind, then only they will revert from such activities, for which the case studies of similar such accidents which has happened before has to be shared to the employees, and proper safety postures and displays should be there, campaigns and competitions should be there, sharing the results of audits and inspections, that is very important, and establishing a system to collect feedback, what is wrong, what is good that is happening in the site, as well as a toolbox meeting, a small size meeting at every regular interval should be there, and proper safety signage should be provided, and the communication should be addressed to the workmen. What all communications regarding safety which is addressed to the workmen should be in their own local languages, so that it is understandable by the majority of humans. Now coming to the sixth important point, it is reporting. Now timely recording and reporting is very very important, because that is the key factor of continual improvement, and there is internal as well as external reporting factors should be there. Incident reporting internally should be there, non-conformance if any has to be reported, Health and safety performance also need to be reported so that it can be rewarded accordingly. And hazard identification, if any, which was not in the purview at the stage of planning, need to be identified and to be reported, if any. And external reporting should support or should cover the statutory reporting requirements, and stakeholder reporting also should be there. And this recordance is need to be communicated to the stakeholders so that they also be aware about it. For example, if there is any big project that is happening in a locality like our LNG terminal, so the near location, they had proper guidance, they had proper communications which is coming from them, and that helps them in having a confidence of living over there. Coming to the next one, it is an operational control, and we all know that at every level we identify the hazards, and the hazards which have been identified obviously should have a control measure for the same, and that has to be incorporated within the work method statement and operational control procedures. Unless otherwise, this will not be taken into consideration and end up with severe accidents. So whatever instructions that is being given, especially for the control measures, it should be a single point guideline, and it should be given to a frontline employees who is going to execute the job in a safe manner. And unless otherwise, it is a single point guideline. If it comes from different authorities, probably that will end up with confusions which has to be avoided. Procedures shall even include the legal and other requirements, control measures identified to bring down the risk level as low as reasonably practical level so that the project objectives and targets are met. Permit to work system is very important. There are different complicated works which is involved in any site. So the activities requiring the permit of work has to be decided before the start of any construction works, and it has to be suitably documented. So once those activities are in progress, proper work permit has to be provided, especially for the works like excavation, entry into confined places, those who are working with high voltage, low voltage, openings, manholes, covers, grills, etc., blasting operation, hot work, industrial radiography, work on plant, machinery and other power driven equipment, working at height, working in night. For all this, which has one way or the other hazards involved, need to have work permits. And this project team may establish a permit to work system for any other hazards activities which they feel so, and it has to be properly communicated with the higher officials. Coming to the design and engineering, we know that the design drawings, the construction methodology, plans, etc. are reviewed, and whatever risks are identified, they are properly addressed to. But apart from this, we should also understand any of the additional risks, if any, is there, and to mitigate that, proper design has or the methodology has to be modified. For example, many of the times the attention has to be paid to the following things, like providing permanent hooks, loops for tying the safety slings of workers, providing holes and such arrangements for attaching the safe working platforms, and to provide safety nets if at all required, and laying permanent slings, grab rails, bars, etc. Permanent provision for attaching railings to safeguard them against falling, provision for alternate access to the trapped or distressed workers who lost their concentration and they have to be brought down safely, provision for communication, design facility for barricading and area around work site without causing hindrance to building functional activities, durability of such safety related permanent designs and other safety practices for whatever works that is involved. Coming to the next one, certification of plant machinery, lifting tools and tackles. And you all know that This lifting appliances, plant machineries, etc. are inevitable in any work site. So they have to be properly checked and tested regularly and examined by a competent person within the site as well as outside the site, so that safety is ensured. And we all know that this has to be even done by authority also, and also the project specific procedures has to be established, and those machineries which is involved in the line of those project specific things has to be checked and correctly inspected, and regular inspections should be carried out for the machineries and equipments to continue their work in safe condition. Coming to the 11th one, which is very important, subcontractor management, which is least taken into consideration, and many of the work we are going to execute it by the help of subcontractors or giving subcontractors. So they also should be in line process. Otherwise what happens is, how much ever safe considerations that we follow, if they violate it, and they will end up with accidents in the site. So they also should give due consideration towards the safety and health performance, and the subcontractors' capability of executing the project need to be reviewed before selecting them, and their requirements or the safety and health requirements should be clearly communicated to the subcontractors, and their commitment need to be obtained before we award work to them, and their performance regarding health and safety need to be regularly monitored, and directive and support system also should be available. Fire prevention and control is very important, because this forms a hazard, right? Hazard identification and risk assessment of fire hazards need to be clearly monitored, and the identified risk, fire prevention measures, ignition source, segregation of flammable materials are to be implemented to prevent fire, because this segregation of flammable materials is very much important, because something, when it is individual, nothing is going to happen. Probably when they adds up with some other material, probably that will cause fire, which has to be avoided. And proper firefighting facilities, especially the first aid, fire extinguishers, fire buckets filled with water and sand, water pipeline hoses, etc. has to be clearly given, or it should be maintained regularly. Firefighting arrangements shall be provided at suitable locations, and we should understand where is the possibility of the fire. There we have to implement the right way of extinguishing or eradicating that fire. So for which we should know the type of flammable materials which is available at each and every location, and suitable fire mitigating equipment has to be provided. Firefighting facilities which has to be placed strategically at prominent locations of a building is very important, and without traveling to a long distance, we should have an access for the same, for which also this management is important. And very importantly, the employees need to be trained for fire prevention as well as firefighting. If at all any fire occurs, how to fight against it before it goes to a extraordinary way. We are supposed to control it and fight it against it and brought into control. Access control is yet another factor. It is advisable to establish access control for any persons, including workmen as well as visitors. And we all know that the duties have been clearly mentioned to each and every workers. So there need not be any agglomerance of a different worker at a particular location which he is not advisable to access. So that can be controlled by means of an entry pass or barcoded cards, biometric systems, etc. And implementation of this helps in following manner: ensures not only the competent as well as trained workmen are deployed for work, and helps in monitoring the working hours of employees, so that if it is exceeding a statutory limits, probably he will get faint up and probably he will end up with an accident. So in order to avoid that, correct time shall be monitored. And in case of any such places wherein accidents could occur, we should know how much persons are working over there. So head count in case of emergencies becomes easy, so that at the time of accident how many persons were involved over there. At each point of time, how many employees are working over there, we will have a clear idea about it. That's what this access control means to. And the next one is the safety of visitors. Visitors are a separate entity and they are of different attitude also. So obviously, when they enter into the site, they don't know what is happening within the site. They may not be knowing. So for which they should be clearly given a health and safety induction program before they enter into the actual construction project site. And a minimum PPE has to be introduced towards them, and they should make aware that what all hazards or risks are there in this work area and how many restricted areas of entry are there. And you should also make them aware that there is an emergency response arrangement over there, and in case of any emergency they are supposed to adopt it. And once they are inside the site, it is best, or a practice is best, that a person who is already in the site accompany them, so that the person who is inside already knows what all health practice that we do. So those persons can easily help a visitor to get rid of the accidents and make them in a safe condition. And they are not supposed to be allowed, the visitors are not supposed to be allowed in hazardous area unless otherwise the authority are properly convinced that the visitor is competent and trained enough to work in such areas. Coming to the 15th point, it is traffic and logistics management. We all know that in a job layout, we all know where each and every activities are happening, where the real work is happening, where the materials are there, where the canteen is, and everything we know clearly. So a proper strategic traffic management plan has to be prepared, and this should include measures for segregating pedestrian as well as vehicular movement. And we should also know a clear or establish a clear traffic rules within the premise, so that a speed limit will come, a one-way system would be incorporated, and we should manage the flow of traffic, and we should avoid, in many cases we should avoid, or as far as possible we should avoid the blind zones or hazardous junctions are not present within the system. And managing the flow of traffic should be in such a manner that there should not be any reversing, because reversing itself is a blind zone, right? So it has to be avoided. And use of traffic control devices like road humps, convex mirrors, delineators, traffic signals, and your barriers should be provided. And in strategic locations, we are supposed to deploy flagmen, security personnel, traffic marshals, especially in the critical areas, to regulate the traffic. Now, performance monitoring and improvement. Now, whatever performance regards to health and safety is being carried out, it has to be monitored, and proper procedures for measuring the same also should be there. And the monitoring the extent to which every person is meeting the requirements or the objectives of health and safety are to be recorded. Proactive measures of compliance of the measuring the compliance of health and safety plan, operational control procedures, legislations, etc. has to be recorded. Reactive measures for the same, especially for monitoring the accidents, ill health, near misses and non-conformities, has to be taken care. Reward reprimandment is very important. Acknowledge and encourage the good and health and safety performance, so that they are motivated, and there should be in place reprimandment for the repeated violations, non-conformities and poor health practices also. And if at all any project specific reward and reprimand system has to be employed, that also has to be implemented. Promote a positive health and safety culture. It is not vested in a single person or a safety manager to take care of the health and safety culture. It is each and every person who is involved, which we have already discussed before, who is involved in this safety culture. That is the owner, client, consultant, construction agency, and it's a joint endeavor to promote the positive health and safety culture. Top management of the organization should exhibit a visible management commitment so that leadership will help the workers to work safely, and that whatever leadership that they are showing, it should come in each and every activities over there, like project health and safety committee meeting should be there, health and safety walk down should be there, include health and safety in all performance review meetings, exhibit a safe behavior while inside. All those things has to come from the management itself. The top management should clearly communicate that the safety it has a core value and it will not be compromised also. And these messages that any management level being taken regarding health, it should reach in the real sense to the down to the level of the organization, so that the positive health and safety culture will be incorporated, or it will be coming up. And integration of the entire system is very important. We all know there will be obviously a unhealthy situation, like this health and safety management will say something, and that will have to compromise with quality or the environment management and project management approach. So that should not happen. Everything should coherently go, so that the project will be implemented properly, proper quality will be managed, environmental management system will go work properly, and project management also will go, so that the activities will be completed in the as per schedule without compromising on health and safety management. So let us all move towards a very safe health practice, as well as the clear objectives of health and safety management. And occupational safety and health is vital to the dignity of work. It is as said by Joan Swanaria. And thank you very much for your kind listening. Thank you.